Hi, I want to share a little nugget with you from the scriptures here. I'm reading over here in 2 Timothy chapter 4. It's where Paul is talking about he's coming down to the end. He says, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Finally, there is laid up for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give to me on that day, and not only to me, but to all those who love his appearing. Then we skip down a few verses, and it says he's talking about Demas, the one that forsook him, having loved this world. He's talking about different people and how they've affected his life. Then we come down to verse 16, and it says, Paul speaking, at my first answer, or in the New King James Version here, at my first defense, no one stood with me, but all forsook me. May it not be charged against them. But the Lord stood with me and strengthened me, so that the message might be preached fully through me. Just a few words here, 16 and 17. At my first answer, nobody stood with me, but all forsook me. May it not be charged against them, but the Lord stood with me. I want to talk to you about three little things for a minute. Being forsaken, being forgiving, and being fortified. Forsaken, forgiving, fortified. Paul is talking about here where he was forsaken, and that feeling, that sense. Well, I think about Uriah. You remember the story of David and Bathsheba? And he looked over the wall when he wasn't out to war where he was supposed to be at that moment, and he saw Bathsheba bathing, and he coveted her, lusted after her. He went on and had her brought to his place, and they had a relationship, and then he was trying to think how to cover it up, and he invited her husband, Uriah, to come home from the battle. And so he could be with his wife, and the pregnancy that had resulted would just be not known. And Uriah said, no, I can't do that. My brothers are out fighting in a battle, and so I'm not going to take advantage of the comforts of home. And he slept on the doorstep at the king's home, at the palace. When he wouldn't bow down after a couple of efforts to David's whims, he was sent back to battle, and David could only think of one thing to do, and that was to murder him. Of course, he wasn't going to murder him outright, so he sent him out and sent a note. Uriah carried his own death sentence, not knowing it, to Joab, to the head of the army there. And the note said, put Uriah in the thick of the battle, and then pull back from him so that he'll be killed. And Joab didn't question. He just did as he was told to do by David. The moment that I'm actually focusing on here is this courageous soldier who is going to battle and fighting his heart out for his country, for his king. And he's up close to a walled city and fighting. And all of a sudden, he looks up toward the top of the wall, and he sees a large boulder coming hurtling down. And then at that moment realizes that all of his fellow soldiers have fallen back, have fled, and he is facing this alone. Think of that moment, the moment that you realize you've been forsaken. Now that's pretty graphic, that's pretty harsh, that's pretty hard. Most of us will never have to deal with anything like that in our lives, but that's the point I wanted to get to, was anything in our lives being forsaken in a moment, having somebody turn their back on us, being rejected, being left alone. Of course we know that God is there for us. He's our ever-present help in time of trouble. The scriptures tell us that. He lifts us up when we're down. And that's what I'm talking about here. He says, at my first answer, no one stood with me. When I was in the thick of the battle, no one was there for me. I was forsaken. Bad things happen to us. How do we respond?